You can call me Sid. I am Sidheshwar Bhalla. Yeah, I come from Delhi. Professionally, I am a chartered accountant and a company secretary with almost 2 decades of experience. I believe to give back to society, to give back to professionals like you. So I also wear the hat of Senior Vice President with the Institute of Internal Auditors. And somehow I always had this thought process in my mind that before I qualify as a chartered accountant, I'll qualify as a Jyotish Acharya. And so I did. So this is almost 2 decades back. Delhi Bharati Vidya Bhavan, that's where I did my Jyotish Acharya. And to share with you, my guru actually comes from South, Chennai, Shri K.N. Rao. Yeah. So he's the one who started one in Bharati Vidya Bhavan, Delhi, and then in California. And a lot of contributions he has made. There is one system. So all of you would have heard about these planets, Rahu, Ketu, and all that. Yeah, that's something. But he also sketched another system which is Gemini astrology. And I always owe it back to him because I have personally seen for lost horoscopes where the time of birth is not known. It works well. See, so I have captured a couple of things which will give some clarity also in terms of has it to do with some paranormal activities or something like that and all that stuff, but it has nothing to do with that. So I am a risk professional and a Jyotish Acharya for this session. Yeah. And astrologically speaking on internal audit. Yeah, I thought, let me put, so on my LinkedIn profile, if you see, there are almost 35 articles that I've written. I've written on astrologically internal audit, on medical profession, women particularly. Behind every successful man, there is a woman. Yeah, I've written on that also. Some exciting out of the box, politician, latest one is the metaverse I've written, artificial intelligence. You must be finding this is something strange. Yeah. Anyway, maybe after the session. So I'll go in a very structured way. See, what do we do in internal audit? We look at processes, we look at systems, and at the end of the day, we say that there is something that can go wrong and we'll inform the stakeholders well in advance. So we are trying to be more risk conscious, be more aware about things. But that's to do with the organization. Astrology does something same for your life, for all individuals as a whole. But I don't call it as a prediction, I call it as a direction. If you take it as a direction, it can do wonders. So astrology is called Jyotish, which translates science of light. So today you can see me, I can see you. If I create a board or a wall, you can't see me, right? So that means no one of us, 90 to 95% of the times, there could be an element of intuition, but intuition has no role to play in astrology, by the way. We can't see what is going to happen 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 year down the line because there is a wall in front of us. So that Jyotish is the science of light. So it tries to make that wall, which is translucent, into something like transparent. So it gives you that knowledge. I'm speaking in English, A, B, C, D, words, alphabets, all of it. This is also the language of stars. So astrology, astro plus logy, star, language of stars. That's what it is. But it is in a different format. Yeah, that's what makes a difference. And by the way, it's an Upved. It is there in our Shastras, very much there in our Shastras. And like I said, it is for direction, not prediction. I thought I will also show you this pic which is there. And you would have seen something like this as a diagram. Yeah, where 1 is written, it is house 1. Where 2 is written, it is house 2. Same way till 12, it is all the houses. You think of anything as part of your life, it is there as a direction. So if we talk about karma, if we talk about what we do as our bread and butter, it is where number 10 is written. Right? Why I'm sharing this thing is because I don't want to sound Greek completely. We are all smart professionals, so we can understand all that. So number 10 is where you actually look at your karma, your profession, what you do. But the problem is that astrology is a science as well as an art. And the problem is in the art. Yeah, 99% of the time you will have some astrologer who is like a parrot. Fortunately, this place, Chennai, is a power center for astrology. Yeah, so thanks once again to IIM Madras chapter that we are actually talking about all this over here. I thought I'll share certain common myths before we deep dive into the AI part of internal audit. Astrology only helps predict life events. No, it doesn't. It actually tells you, it directs you. So prediction can be there. It's not meant for prediction, it's meant for introspection, it's meant for inner peace, calmness within you. That's what it is meant for. But it's believed that it's meant for life prediction, which it isn't. Can change the future? No. Nobody can change your future. What is destined is destined. The quality of your life can change. 100% quality of your life can change in profession, in personal spheres, whatever. So I always say that what is the right time to do things? What is the right time to study? What is the right time to get settled in marriage? What's the right time to work? What's the right time to change? And one can be wrong. It's an art as well at the same time. So sometimes people say, I have a very good birth chart. I have all the yogas are planetary combinations like Dharam, Karam, Adhipati Yoga. That means the person is going to be very fortunate in the professional sphere. If you have a Gaj Kesari Yoga, it will say that you will have windfall gains, good money in your life and all that stuff. Yeah. So there are thousands of yogas that way, which is there. But if you do not perform your karma, you will get the result. Your bank balance may not be in multiple CRs, it could be in few lakhs. That's the only difference. So karma is very important and right direction of karma is equally important. You can solve all your problems through astrological remedies. No, you can't. I personally don't believe in rings. When I studied also, I was from my gurus briefed on this thing that it can change your life. Wearing rings can change your life, but meditation is a good thing. Because supposing I have two bank accounts, in one account I have a lakh rupees, another I have a 2 lakh rupees, another 5 lakh. I withdraw from one and put in the other. What am I doing? My balance is the same. So somewhere I have reduced the output that I will get and somewhere I have increased. That's what rings do. But meditation can balance it out. It can refine your karmas, which is there. It's to do with magic, paranormal, psychic activity. I also used to say, believe this thing. Sometimes you would have heard people come in a room and by looking at it, they will start answering certain things. Yeah, something like this. It's all science. There is nothing like that. So for instance, I as an astrologer, if I wear the hat of an astrologer, can say, okay, if a person comes from this room, I will treat that as the Lagna chart 1. If the person is coming from this, I'll treat that as 3. That's my, but I will be able, that's called Mukh Prashna. So I can answer 3 questions correctly. People practice that. I've studied that. I don't practice it. So there is nothing like a paranormal activity or a psychic activity or something like that. These are all myths over there. There is no paranormal activity right now, it's not working. Okay, I thought let me bring a flavor of internal audit versus astrology. Internal audit, yesterday also we heard, we look things in hindsight, insight and foresight, right? And what does astrology do? It can look at your past, it can look at your present as well as the future. It may be from a direction perspective, but definitely it can do that sort of a thing. Informed decision is something that we always do. Risk management, line 2 function, even internal auditors, they'll say we want to take decisions in a very informed way so that we know what will go wrong. Yeah. Same way it is direction. So I'll give you an example. I've seen a lot of horoscopes over a period of time. It's out of passion, purely out of passion that I do. And I got to, so no name basis, I actually met a person, his daughter wanted to do medical. Yeah, 12th class, he wanted to do medical. And when I saw the horoscope, and he believed in it, so I said, don't discourage your daughter. Let her appear for competitive exams 2 times, 3 times, but she will not clear that. But I can tell you, she will be doing something in fashion designing. And I'll tell you in the next slides, how do you actually infer all those things, particularly from an audit perspective. And then he said, okay, you look at mine also. By the way, he was working in Tata. I don't know which group company, but Tata's. So I said, you are working here, you will also shift into business, in a export business, something like that. Then he said, and only daughter they had. So He said, okay, look at my wife's horoscope. I said, your wife is going to influence a lot in your business. After 3-4 years, he came back. The daughter was not frustrated because she appeared for exams, did the right karma, flunked, and finally did a fashion technology course. This guy started his business, and wife had some sisters and relatives, and they started an export business. So a lot of examples I have, practical examples, it's to do with direction, not prediction. Yeah. If supposing I said, okay, you do this sort of a ring or meditation and all that, and let her do, ultimately, even if you do a particular professional course, right, and it is not destined for you to reap benefits of it, with a lot of efforts you will do it, but you will not get the benefit. But if you do what you are supposed to do, you will get more gains out of it. So prosperity is something that comes. Resilience, again, in audit, in risk, we say, we want to look at organizations that are more resilient to any sort of a change, right? Same way astrology for an individual, for a native, guides you as a self-improvement tool. How can you actually look at things from a different perspective? It's basically for toning down your thought process, which is there. Okay, so I thought, let me also share, there are at least 1,000 significations of each planet, thousands of significations. People come and ask me now that will we buy property on metaverse? Practical question. People speculate on metaverse these days. So will we buy? Long time back they asked me, will I have a property in moon? Yeah. And there is no need to wear some Bhagwa Chola for being an astrologer. There is no need. I intentionally it's a Saturday, I thought I won't wear a tie. I don't know whether Burjan is here or not, but then I thought let me wear a tie, even if I'm speaking on this subject, because it's a blend of both. So, for instance, Budh, Mercury. Yeah, see these planets, we've got 7 planets, 7 days, 7 planets, and Rahu Ketu. Today, nowadays, because of digital disruption, Uranus as a planet has taken prominence, by the way. So, if supposing somebody wants to become a data scientist, somebody wants to do education in artificial intelligence and all, Uranus will also become an important planet to look at things. But coming back to our topic here, as internal auditors, we need to be good orators. Yeah. We need to be thought leaders. So we need to be able to think, we need to be able to speak well. AI, because nowadays we talk about artificial intelligence, so I intentionally captured it. Mercury also signifies digital currency, bitcoins, cryptocurrency and all that. Yeah. So that means, look at it, in our Vedas, all these things is already in place. There's nothing like that which is not there. I have written an article on adoption and surrogacy. Long time back, given references of all mythologies. Then you have Jupiter, Brahspat. We give advice, right? Why am I telling you all these things? You remember the first chart which I showed you, I said 10 number where it is written is actually your Karam Sthan. So if that Karam Sthan is influenced by these planets, Mercury, Jupiter, accordingly your profession will come. You would have heard in some of the, so I have been with KPMG, Deloitte, EY earlier, and I have seen the larger firms have sector focus, industry focus, oil and gas, pharma, hospitality and all that. Now in the 10th house, if you have combinations of a hospitality sector, then as an advisor, as a consultant, if you start focusing on that particular sector, then you will stand to gain. And there are a lot of good organizations, law firms, business houses that look at it this way. In fact, recently I got a call from one of the headhunters. I thought the guy is wanting to give me some offer, but he said, I place almost 30 people in an organization during the year, and the success rate is around 26, 27. I want to have a 100% success rate. I've gone through your article, so can you guide me in this and we can collaborate? I said, I don't do this for money, so I will not collaborate, but I'm okay to provide that guidance, so people will also actually in the process stand to gain. But back to this, Jupiter, advise. So that means we are consultants, as internal auditors, we are consultants, we talk about governance, we talk about advice, we talk conventional currency intentionally I've written, so this is like your currency notes, your barter system is all about to do with Jupiter that way. Shukra, Venus. Believe me, in this room, even without seeing anybody's chart, birth chart, I can tell you the Venus has a role to play. Otherwise, you will not be in this profession. I can bet you on this. Every person will have on the Karam Sthan role of Venus. Venus talks about design, process, creativity, software developers. So Venus role will definitely be there. Otherwise, we may be doing something else, not internal audit per se. So Venus has that again role to play. Mangal, Mars. Today we talk about machine learning. We talk about augmented reality, data scientists. So supposing somebody comes and says that I want to actually become a data scientist. That's how you look at it in a birth chart. Augmented reality. Saturn. You cannot be a good consultant if the role of Saturn is not there. You must be wondering that I've almost named all the planets. See, I'm naming all the planets because everything is not being done by everyone. Something is done by someone, right? Even in our professional capacities. That's how the combinations will work. But people, structure, confidentiality of information, control, and all comes from there. Rahu, which was considered one of the most dreadful planets, it's actually a tertiary planet, not a planet, is the most dominant one these days if you really want to have a good success in your professional sphere, whether you are in a film industry, you are in a audit line, and particularly technology, because it talks about robotic, global, online business, startups, online business. Rahu has a very dominant role over there to play. Uranus is something which, so I also keep on studying a lot of these things. Uranus is something which I have noticed today, if you look at it, cutting edge technology, innovation, virtual reality, metaverse, creating new patterns out of it. This is all influenced by Uranus. Yeah, and people who are born around 95, 7 years before that, 96 and 7 years before that, you will find they are very innovative. They will be very innovative, yeah, because that is the time when this planet actually took the 11th Rashi over there. What I am sharing is not even 0.001%. Believe me, 20% is there in the books. Otherwise, it's all through Shruti. But it's a minuscule thing. I just thought I'll keep it very simple so that everybody can understand, and we can actually have a more of a Q&A, because a monologue will not be helpful in this particular type of a session. I thought before that, let me pose or position some questions and also answer these. Native is sure to receive. What is Prarabdha? Prarabdha is something which is destined, right? Something which is destined, something which is promised. So, whether a native is sure to receive what is Prarabdha or destined or promised, yes, one will, but the quality of what is promised will depend on the karma. Yeah, that is something very, very important and critical. Can a native change one's Prarabdha promise? With lot of effort you can. Believe me, you can change your karma. Supposing it is destined that you will not get married, you still want to get settled, get married, you will somewhere or the other, but you may have a lot of problems over there. That's a different thing. But so you can change that. So whether the native will receive what is not prarabdha or promise, yes, you will. It is not promised, but you will still not gain the benefit of it. People fight for property, lot of times ancestral properties and all that, and you will find that they inherit also, but they are not able to enjoy the benefits of all that, yeah, at some point of time, because it's not destined that way. Your 8th house, which is inheritance house, perhaps is weak that way. So if an event is destined, should we stop performing karma and be complacent? No. If you do that, you will get the benefit, but the quality of benefit will reduce. Supposing you are a chartered accountant, you want to be in audit, as all of us want to be in this field, but we don't keep ourselves updated, upskilled and all that, you will still continue and you will do good, but perhaps you may not get the optimum result if that is so destined over there. I'm actually doing a study myself on money matters, how much money a person should have in life, right? How much should, it's a very technical thing, very difficult to actually interpret, but I'm actually trying to analyze horoscopes, look at it, what should be there in an individual's life, because higher levels of money also causes higher levels of problems. There is no one over here, or not me, I mean here on this earth, who doesn't have problems. You may have a lot of money, but still you will have equally challenging problems over there. So that's again, but I always say, be the change you wish to see. And the pic you can see is on the metaverse. Very soon you will find all of us also, or at least the astrologers doing all that stuff. But can astrology be completely digitized? See, something which will be out of the box thinking will always be out of the AI world or the metaverse world, something which is completely out of the box. Creativity is something which is completely out of the box, and creativity is something which we all do. We actually do as internal auditors. We try to be more creative, more innovative in whatever we think. So I don't think that the scope or the work or the role of internal auditors is going to tone down based on AIs and MLs and all that stuff. Things are still going to be quite in favor of us. So I am open to questions now. I thought I'll keep a couple of slides only. Sure, sir. This one? Surely, sir. So you want me to explain the right side or the left side? Okay. All 12. Okay, I will do that. I can tell a full day session. Madras chapter will only say, thank you, we have Jeshil session coming up. So, okay. Like I said, sir, astrology is something that makes you see. So I can see all of you, you can see all of me. If I put a curtain over here, then you can't see me. What astrology does is it tries to make the curtain transparent as possible. So it's a light, it's a jyoti which you can see. Jyoti is the science of light basically. So that's what astrology does. Now it is a typical language. Sanskrit has its own alphabets, English has its own, Hindi, all languages have their own alphabets. Chinese, for instance, Japanese we can't read. Same way this has its own alphabets. The way it is written is in the form of planets, and that's why it is called language of stars, astrology, astro plus logy. And it's meant for direction, not prediction. Okay, let me go house-wise. Where number 1 is written is house 1. Each one of you look at yourself. You are in that one house. In your respective birth charts, right? You are number 1. So that's something, if you have to talk about a profession of a person, you have to talk about any sphere of life, you have to see the number 1, what the native is. That's number 1. Number 2 is the house of speech. How do you speak? Will you have a speech problem? With what clarity you will speak? And number 2 is a house which for internal auditors again is very important, because we communicate. We have to communicate the right things. It's oral communication. Number 3 house is the speed of thought, clarity. So 2 is the actual action that you're speaking, but how fast you are able to think through is number 3 house. So each house will have more than 1,000 again signification. I'm just being restricting as an example over there. Number 3 is also courage. Will you have high levels of integrity, ethics? Number 3 house is very important. I'm just trying to relate it with our profession, each of these houses. Number 4 is a very interesting house. It is the Sukhstan. Many of chartered accountants also go into the political sphere. Elections mein chale jate hain. We had Gopalji also, and so many of them are there. Number 4 house is very important. It's to do with parliamentary affairs. So if supposing your Karam Sthan 10 is linked to any of these, supposing it gets linked to 4th, and 4th is very strong. So I'm not going into it how you decipher the strength of a particular house. There are ways and means to do it, but number 4 is the house. 5th is the house of education. 4th is also education, but preliminary level. Higher education, CA, CS, CPA, IFRS, whatever you do is number 5 as an house. Number 5 gives you education. You may become a doctor and ultimately you may become a musician. Yeah, so we have some examples over there. You may be a chartered accountant but doing altogether a different profession. Number 5 is what you study, number 10 is what you do, right? And number 2 is also from where you earn money. So you may earn money from what you have studied or some other means. Number 6 is the house of service. Now we all as professionals, some of us are chartered accountants, company secretaries and into this profession. Number 6 is the house which will show whether you will serve or you will do your own work. So 6th is that house, right? Some people will continue to serve is number 6. Number 7 is business partnerships. When you do, I will go as, whether I will become a partner or not. Biggest question is number 7 house, right? You may become an employee, continue as a career employee. Number 6, you become a partner. Number 7. Number 8 is the most significant house in these days. In today's times, you will find, as we see the next gen also, they will have non-linear career paths. They will not have linear career path. That means they will start from one organization and end up perhaps in a 10th organization. They will start in a finance function and end up in an operational area. That's how the trend, the Gen Z is also looking at it. That's number 8. Number 8 used to be considered as one of the worst houses. But in today's time, it actually brings a change. So number 8 becomes very important. Number 9 is the house of fortune, your destiny. आपने बहुत मेहनत की, बहुत काम किया, फल फिर भी नहीं मिला. Number 9 is that house. So you have to look at the horoscope as a whole always. It's not any one house, it has to be studied as a whole. Number 10 is the Karam Sthan. What actually you do, the work that you will be doing, right? It is also the Sthan of Dharma. If you will become a spiritualist and all that is also coming from there, number 10. Number 11 is the house of, आपने काम तो बहुत किया, आपको promotion मिली नहीं मिली is a different thing, but आपको return भी नहीं मिली. You said I am worth 1 CR, but I always get 30-40 lakhs. The 11th house, that's the challenge. Disconnect over there. 12th house is again something which used to be considered as the most house that nobody wanted to live on it. Because 12th house is to do with moksha, by the way. You get moksha through that. 12th house is also foreign land. आप मल्टीनेशनल के साथ काम करोगे कि नहीं, वो 12th हाउस से आएगा. आप लग जाओ किसी, मतलब all due respects to all organizations, but a local sort of Indian startup, or but if your destiny is such, it will go global, or you will automatically take a global sort of a thing, because 12th house is very important. In today's times, particularly after 1991, India में जब globalization शुरू हुआ था, the house number 8th and 12th got dominance. They became prominent. So I've written an article on promotions and transfers. Before 1991, there used to be a lot of transfers. Government jobs होती थी, 3-3 साल बाद transfer होती रहती थी. Nowadays, change. So you have, either you get a promotion, so 8th house and 12th house basically triggers that. But if there is any question in anyone's mind with respect to any sphere on audit or non-audit, with respect to this, so you can ask me. So I hope this gives some clarity. It is the strength of the planet. Surya, sun for instance, is written. Sun means your relations with your boss, right? How much good or bad relations you will have with your boss. It's basically government. It's also to do with government. Sun, if it is exalted, means it is very strong. If it is debilitated, means it is very weak. If it is strong, that means you will have good relations with your boss. If it is bad, debilitated, you won't have. But by the way, you have to look at it, house number 9 also. House 8 is boss, house 9th is relationship with boss. So you may have a good boss, but you may not have a good relation. You may have a very bad boss, but you have very good relations with the boss, right? So 8 and 9 again. Lagna is number 1. Lagna is number 1. I was not going to too many details, but since you've asked, Lagna is number 1, and the South Indian style is more like a square. That this is a North Indian style. Both is same. Yeah, mundane astrology. So okay, I'll tell you. See, astrology is basically one of the occult sciences, right? And astrology, within astrology, you've got mundane astrology, which is astrology of nations. You've got astrology of human beings, right? Mundane astrology, for instance, if you're saying for India, don't quote me, I'm getting recorded also by the way, but anyway, what I'm saying is something which is there in public. India is passing through the dasha of Chandrama, moon, right, till 2025, which is a comfortable, it will progress. After 2025, for 7 years, it will cross through Mangal, Mars. That means you will find a lot of disruption. 2025 ke baad there will be a lot of disruption. Now I don't want to say anything on whether the map of India will remain this or it will change, whatever, but it will progress. Particularly 2032 onwards, when Rahu will come, it will start going at its peak, and we will see the color of technology in a very different format. We can't even visualize it. I read somewhere that by 2030, most of the jobs will be, 85% of the jobs we've not even thought about. That will be there. And perhaps we may actually nomenclate as a digital worker, but we really don't know what the profile of the job will be. But yes, if you look at the way India is going to have the Dasha system, it is very much evident that these type of aberrations will be there. Yashil.
So, can you let us know, is it possible astrologically that can you direct various internal audit professionals at the start?
Yes,
And have you done that?
I have done that. I have done that. In fact, I would have seen, I don't know how many horoscopes of chartered accountants in this profession also, because I deal and interact with a lot of our fraternity. Internal audit is Venus. Like I said, in this room, if I start looking at charts, I will find the role of Venus as a planet in the 10th house. Somewhere it will have a role to play. The more dominant the role, or you may find the person will go in hospitality sector, or the person may start doing, last night we had a very good cultural program. You know, I was actually linking it that people who are auditors can be very good actors also. Not that we act all the time, but we can be very good actors. We can be very good musicians, because Venus gives all these things, music, yeah, luxury. Normally you will find auditors, they are, and particularly risk professionals, they will be most of the time in some sort of hotels or clubs and all these things. Why? Because it's Venus. I'm actually doing a study also, where should you work? Means, should you work in a official decorum? Should you work in a dining table, or should you work in a master bedroom alone that way? Where should you work? Because where do you place yourself will get you better results. So it's a very finer aspect that way. But yes, very much possible. Yeah.
Sir.
Yeah.
So there are certain things that you say that the two part. One is the destiny and another is your karma. So if you mention that you do certain mantras or
Right, meditations.
or something, if you can give a or you can able to manage that. Is it possible that?
See, basically what gets fructified in your life is based on couple of things as below. One is what is prarabdh, जो आपके है. But second is, when will you get that? आपकी बृहस्पति की ये जैसे जुपिटर लिखा हुआ है 4 नंबर में, स्थान को देख रहा है टेक्निकली. That means you will be really doing very well, right? But आपको बृहस्पति की दशा ही नहीं मिली. तो कर तो अच्छा लोगे, लेकिन अब जो राज कर रहा है उसको नहीं पूजोगे तो फायदा नहीं है ना. So the point is, number 1, what is prarabdh, what is destined. Number 2, what sort of dasha you are getting. Number 3, what is the transit. For instance, recently we had a major transit of Saturn transit, 17th of January. Saturn changed the house, right? बहुत लोगों ने देखा होगा, आजकल social media is very active. 26th, 27th of April, Jupiter. So these are 2 major transit in the very first quarter. You will find a lot of disruption in almost everybody's life. Believe you and me, almost everybody's life, you will find some disruption in any sphere, good or bad. I'm not saying bad. ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता, this is bad. Everything happens for good only. Whatever happens, happens for good. Believe me. So the transit will also influence that, right? And then you have the Sanchet karma, which is your past karmas, and all those things will influence. So very much possible. Yeah.
So you said astrology is a science, and
Art.
which means that the probability of what you direct or what you predict will be very high.
Yes.
So why don't we bring this as a curriculum in the study so that everyone knows going forward what should we do and how should we take things forward?
So thousands of years back it was there. We are now coming back on it. Recently I was reading one article wherein it said that Germany, they are wanting professors and all for Sanskrit, right? So we were saying whether our roots which are there will we find in India or will find in Germany. After a couple of years, as a statesman, if you start thinking that way. See, as per the Shastra, no astrologer can be more than 70% correct. That 70% may be 100% for someone, 0% for some other, and that's where the whole dilution lies. But it's an art also, right? It's an art. I will not say that it is to do with intuition. There's nothing like intuition. It's all scientific, but it's your experience. It's also your fineness with which you can see certain things, right? Does that answer? Should I elaborate further? I'm not sure how much time.
Just between the teacup and the next session. So I think that we will consider as the last question. I don't want to disappoint the gentleman who has raised hands. But we will make sure that there are some standard operating procedures around house number 8 and 10, because I'm also equally excited as you. Abhi to mid-year appraisal ka time bhi hai, but then, yes.
I want to take 2 minutes.
Yeah, sure. I think there's a question, then we'll follow it with you.
Thank you, sir. An interesting session. Couple of questions. One, with this skill, how you have done your internal audit better? Is there any interesting example you can tell us? And second thing, if at all we want to learn, what is our starting point?
See, I will say that it's not internal audit. Internal audit is just like a transaction in life, right? You may do it for a couple of years, you may do it for the span of your life, but whether you are able to direct your profession in the correct way is more important. That is something, but yes, whether you will be able to do internal, supposing aap Venus to hai, like I said, Venus will influence. Now you have Venus, but Venus is not that great and good. If you still want to continue in that profession, put in more efforts, you will get good results. Otherwise, it will be a challenge. Yeah.
Thank you,
I
sir.
think, he wants to say something.
Sure, please.
All yours, sir.
So I wanted to actually see the session more as being proactive and predictive, the kind of a session like, auditor, hindsight, and now we're on the foresight. So I'd like to put this session more on the foresight part. And now there's one question which most of us, when we go overseas and get into a serious professional discussion, a question always comes up. Why is it that Indians are so good programmers? And so does anyone have an answer or a theory about it? Why is it that Indians end up in the last 10 years in the digital age, they're ruling because of the ability to do programming, in spite of the fact that if you look at different parts of software, one part is operating software, which the Russians have always been known to be outstanding. And so India, but is outstanding in terms of, the digital, in the area of digitization, and we're leading. So why is it? So this question I've been posing with across India to a lot of my friends. And one thing very interesting has come. It's a theory. It may not be right, but it is to do with what is a programming language. So a programming language, like any language, follows a grammar, a syntax, and then, there is a certain rules. But one rule which is different in programming compared to other languages of speech, or, Russian or German, is that programming language also has reasoning. It has logical rules. English may not be very logical at times, but programming has logical rules. And this is again a viewpoint, and the first programming language in the world is actually Sanskrit. Because Sanskrit follows logical rules. Sid, you'll have to correct me because you are more well versed.
Astrologically speaking, I will say we are about to enter Mars. So if India, you say, India will lead the digital disruption globally.
Right.
That is what I can say.
And what is the reason?
Because it is, so astrologically speaking, it's about to touch Mars.
Right.
It's just two years away.
Right.
And then Rahu. Rahu is digital disruption at its peak.
Right. Okay, so Sid's got this viewpoint. Now, but we've been leading for the last 10 years. And if you look at those parts of India where the children are required to follow their cultural heritage in detail, and most of the Indian languages have a base of Sanskrit or related, and so they end up learning a lot of poems, and they learn a lot of literature on it, and essentially at a very young age you are being exposed to a programming language. That's the closest I could think of, but if somebody else has some ideas, please share.
No, you're right, sir, professionally speaking.
He's the one who actually took some scripts from here during a travel
train travel. He got some person to interact, and he's the one who sketched the complete curriculum around Gemini astrology. Gemini astrology is for lost horoscope. Basically, the time of birth is not known. In my personal experience, I have seen that it is quite precise. In terms of direction and all professions, it's quite precise. So I thought I will share this also with you. Most of which I am sharing with you are there on my LinkedIn in terms of 35-40 articles that I have written, different topics. So you can have a look at that. But over to you for any question. I thought I'll break the ice. Yeah.
So while hiring any employee in your organization, you get a resume in which the date of birth and the place is already written. So do you do that kind of a filtering process?
Okay. See, as auditors, we look at the tone from the top. I'm just trying to link that. Basically, what we see is the board of directors, right? And there are organizations who look at it that way. Now, if I have to, for instance, in my organization, look at some selection process, I don't do that, honestly. But at a partner level, director level, not a bad thought, it's a good thought. But on a lighter side, I have not, palmistry I have not studied formally, but I do look at, in a glance, I see the hand. And with experience, I know which is a fine hand, and so that much. But I don't get any bias for that also, frankly. No bias, because I don't want to keep it that way.
Okay, the reason I ask this question, so I am currently studying the energy body, the Yoga Prana Vidya, which talks about the energy body and physical body and all those things. So in that study, they always prefer, whenever we have any important interviews or any important discussions, you can scan the body energy, and basis that you can decide that how the energy of the person, and then basis that you can decide your questions and the energy in the room.
Right.
Yeah.
See, the next level of astrology is the energy which is there. In fact, some bit of it I have picked it in one of my articles, which is types of quotient. Right? We talk about intelligent quotient, spiritual quotient, creativity quotient. You know, in a HR function, they actually measure, or they ideally should measure the quotient of an individual, of a native, and then see that what is the type of trainings that you need to give. Supposing your quotient of creativity quotient, CQ, is less. So you will tend to give a training towards creativity. HC functions, they analyze these things, but again, on astrological side, you can look at it that way. So I've written an article, you can see that. Yeah, won't dwell too much on that. Yeah, yeah. Time of birth.
Regarding the time, what is the distortion factor? Say maybe half an hour and 1 hour is really.
So this is a good point. I didn't want to go in detail on that, but see, till the time the Lagna doesn't change, Gemini astrology becomes applicable. So that means you can take it 1.5 hours to 2.5 hours, because the different Lagnas will have different rising time. But till the time, supposing it is say 2:30 to 3:30 and the rising ascendant doesn't change, the Lagna doesn't change, then it is fine. Plus also there are, if the rising ascendant doesn't change, normally the degree of planets will not change. Then you position some of the karkas in that. It's a very different methodology, but yes, normally it is possible. And I use that. Whenever I do, I use that, because I feel that the correct time, with all honesty, nobody knows. Yeah. Yeah.
So this one question always surprises me. Whenever we listen to any kind of prediction, say for India in a channel or news channels, everyone has different interpretation to the same Lagna or Kundli they are reading to it.
Right.
Why does that happen?
Recently there was a cricket match, I think, and on that there was India, Pakistan, if I'm not wrong, and there were like 7, 8, 10 astrologers, all predicted differently. I personally believe that when you wear the hat of an astrologer, you should just remove all the batches. No publicity, nothing, whether you are chairman, managing director of any company, doesn't make a difference. Believe me, when I look at anybody's horoscope, I don't go into the background. Obviously, there is a concept of Deshkal Patra, DKP. So one has to see, but I'm not influenced by that. Because then the astrologer who's looking at it will be biased. So supposing you are on the media and you are trying to say something, put it scientifically. There is a way in which the cricket match prediction can be done. Who will win, who will lose. So like we saw the first house and the seventh house. First house is who wins the bat when the toss is there. So the batting team, you look at the first house, and the bowling team, you look at the seventh house when the toss is won. So that's a scientific way again. Now, who is analyzing it? There are any influences, there are sentiments attached to it. I think those are the things which, as an astrologer, one should not get influenced. So what if people tend to disagree at the beginning? It is possible that couple of minutes, couple of hours, or couple of months, it will be there. See, again, I will highlight one more thing. It is, like I have always stressed, karma is very important. It is not that the cycle of karma is in one generation. It spreads in at least 3-4 generations. You know, the best way to look at a family, how the family will progress, is the last birth, the living individual, the last birth, because that will determine the destiny of that nuclear family or a joint setup, whatever. That's also another way to look at it, because that's the influencing factor which comes. It's quite scientific, but I think like in audit we have paucity of time, maybe sometimes in horoscope reading one may have paucity of time, which should not again be the factor. One should be completely, niswart bhavna se, yeah, it should be there, without any sort of this thing that you want to stand to gain.
Sir, here is a question.
Yeah.
So can I ask something?
Sorry, yeah.
Sir, there are certain surprising factors are observed in case of twins.
Twins?
There's not much of the difference, 1 minute or 2 minutes. Still you find that two individuals are different,
right.
Their behavior is different, and their predictions about those people are also different. Why it is so, sir? Okay. Lagna is not changed, stars are not changed.
I am a twin, by the way. I am myself a twin.
Oh, great, sir.
So I am Sidheshwar, my twin is Kapileshwar.
That's why I'm asking.
He's a CA, I am a CA/CS. I did astrology, he didn't do astrology. The 9th house gives teaching and preaching. He teaches. This is what is also to some extent preaching. Yeah. So, see, the point is there is a way to study the horoscopes of twins. And in today's times, the concept of IVF has become very prominent. Yeah, I've written an article on clones and twins also. Because twins is not by the natural birth only these days. It is by the IVF, and IVF normally you will have...
What I'm talking about through natural birth only.
Which is the same thing. Even, see, supposing you have a twin or you have an IVF where the twin or twin is there, the principles will remain the same. So what happens, the first house, which we saw in the morning, the first house, for the twin, the third house will become the first house. That way. And the first will become the first for the one who is born, who is actually born first, means who breath first. That way.
Some people have believed that, in case of twins, the horoscope, the first one is to be read only, and that is going to predict the second one. Is it so?
First one means?
Like the
No.
But some people
twin horoscope reading is first house is for the firstborn and third house is for the secondborn. And obviously then fifth house for the thirdborn. Supposing.
But why there should be so much of difference? Because I got twin boys, quite different. One
logic is your co-born is actually third house. So supposing you have siblings, 2 brothers or sisters that way, then your horoscope, if I look at your horoscope, then from the third house, I will see the co-born. So that's how, in case of twins, it is done like that.
But how the functions of Hamsas work there?
Sorry?
How the concepts of Hamsas work there, right? The Shodas Hamsa, Dashamsa, Navamsa. So,
okay, when you look at a horoscope, and that's why it is always good to see in a very holistic way. One is the Navansha and the various divisional charts that are there, plus also the Ashtakvark. In case of your divisional charts, you will definitely find a change for the twins. Twins and thins, you will find a change, because that's maybe the D10, D12, D14, D30, they will be more informative that way. But I don't think one should go into the nakshatra level, because sometimes, see, unless you want to go into a very granular detail, suksham, there's no point. Directionally, overall will be good.
But people generally carried away with the holistic picture of, right? So if you go to the nakshatra level of who rules the nakshatra, which planets are sitting in which nakshatra, the relationship between the nakshatra holder and the planets which is sitting on the nakshatra. So that gives even more intrinsic, that's my observation.
There is one very good book on nakshatras. I'm sure it's again by one of the South Indian authors, Mr. Subramaniam, K. Subramaniam. It's a very good book. But what I've seen in my experience, because like I said, in books you will get almost 20% of knowledge. If you read a book and you get one good thing in astrology book, it's worth it. Yeah. What I have seen is that the transits, if you have to see, should be from the rising ascendant. That gives you better result. Rising ascendant.
Yeah. Not from the moon position you are saying. You are saying more from the.
So one is rising ascendant, another is moon, and then sun.
Correct.
But what I have seen is, in my experience, because that way, rising ascendant gives better. Moon, anyways, you will look at it for the Sadhesatis, Dhaiya and all that. Yeah. So now the competition has increased because more people are there. The ones who were there earlier could ask questions that way in a faster, yeah. But yeah. Right. See, my philosophy has always been, because I somehow preempt that there's no harm in failing once or twice in life. I gave that example of a father who was asking about the daughter and all. I said, see, this bias will be there in the daughter's mind for life. Let her appear. Because perhaps astrology is a very, I would say, deep science, but for whatever reasons, the perception is different. So that should not create any sort of a relationship problem or a thought process problem in a child who is appearing for a competition. Doesn't make a difference, 2-3 years में कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा उसमें इतना. But life के लिए आप उसको set हो जाओगे और कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता उसमें वैसे भी. So where I'm coming from is that when you take it as a direction, for instance, you do a compatibility match, and I am saying it with my experience. In case of marriages, you do a compatibility match. I always, when I used to study also 20 years, 2 decades back, I used to feel that if marriages are made in heaven, then why divorce takes place, right? Because marriage comes multiple times in an individual's life. Ever you wondered that people used to get married in the early teens, then we saw 20s, 30s, now 40s also, late 30s, 40s. If you go in the western part of the world, you will find 60, 70 years of age also that way. What is it actually trying to say? Obviously, Deshkal, Patra and all is there. That means, what is the right time of marriage? And if there is a weakness in one chart, can you, through a compatibility analysis, not just by Gun Milan and all, do a negation of any negatives that are there? That's very important. I'll give you one no-name basis example. There was a friend of mine, almost 2 decades back, and I had initially started, so he had some problem. He was not getting married, and his brother sisters was also not married. So he said, I am okay, I want to get married, but there should not be the divorce and all should not happen. I said, what is your ask, you tell me. Problem is there. He said, no divorce. I said, okay, fine. I matched almost 100 charts for him because he's a good friend of mine. He said, wherever you will say yes, I will do. I said yes to just one, and it went ahead. They were happily married, had a child. And one day, he called me, he said that my marriage is on the rocks. and 6 months का जो Indian law के अंदर you have to have a separation and all that stuff. 5 months passed, 5.5 months. I always told him divorce नहीं होगा. 5 months, 15 days he called me. Still, it's almost done. I said okay. अभी हुआ नहीं ना, पेपर पे साइन तो नहीं हुआ. 5 months, 20 days he called me. He said she's taken back and was compared and they are living happily. I said boss, आपने मुझे एक ही बात कही थी. Now this is a different thing that later he said it is better that मेरा divorce हो जाता है, इतनी problem. मैंने कहा नहीं, आपने कहा था नहीं होगा तो नहीं होगा इसके बाद. So basically where I am coming from is how much you can look at it, and it's all to do with God's grace also. You need to meditate a lot. Frankly, you need to do that. Because it's not that you will get some intuitions. It's not that way that kuch Akashvani hogi. But perhaps you will be able to look at it. There are people who come to me and I am not able to see their horoscopes for a couple of months. I don't know for what reason. My whole anxiety is there that I should see that, but वो होता ही नहीं है, time ही नहीं निकलता. But जब आना है समय तभी आएगा. Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask one thing. When you said about the compatibility match or Kundali Milan, right? So, on the engagement perspective, should we do Kundali or compatibility match with the client and the service provider? Because obviously we are getting matched for the longer term relationships.
Whatever one can think of is possible. People come to me and ask that we are getting into a partnership in business. Should I enter into this partnership? You know, what is partnership? 7th house is the house of marriage. It's out of partnership. I was telling in the morning also. Same way, if people look at कि ये मेरा business partner बनेगा, so it's very much possible. Now you are providing a service, it's a transaction, right? पहले तो ये question बिल्कुल valid है, but should we see the two? So supposing you are a partner, now you are there and the company is there, the managing director, you know, कंपनी की भी कुंडली बनती है, कंपनी की भी बनती है. जैसे मुंडेन के अंदर यू हैव अ हॉरोस्कोप ऑफ नेशन, यू हैव अ हॉरोस्कोप ऑफ अ कंपनी आल्सो. सर्टिफिकेट ऑफ इनकॉर्पोरेशन आता है, आजकल तो टाइम भी डाल देते हैं. लेटेस्ट आई हैव सीन द सीए सर्टिफिकेट ऑफ इनकॉर्पोरेशन हैज द डेट, टाइम और प्लेस. यही तो चाहिए हमें उसके अंदर, ये 3 चीजें. तो आप देख सकते हो उसके अंदर. पॉसिबल है, बट फर्स्ट टाइम somebody has asked me for service providing, which is good. People have asked me, मून पे घर खरीदेंगे नहीं खरीदेंगे, मेटावर्स पे ट्रेडिंग करेंगे, स्टॉक मार्केट, 5th हाउस स्टॉक मार्केट. पीपल एक्चुअली देयर आर एस्ट्रोलॉजर्स हु स्पेशलाइज इन स्टॉक मार्केट. या आप इतने बजे बेचो, ये करो एंड ऑल दैट स्टफ. सो पॉसिबल, वेरी मच पॉसिबल. यू थिंक ऑफ एनीथिंग अंडर द सन, इट इज पॉसिबल इन द चार्ट. ड्रीम्स कैसे आएंगे, ड्रीम्स आपको इंसोमेनिया होगा, जो भी आप कुछ भी सोच सकते हो, एवरीथिंग इज पॉसिबल. बिकॉज इफ इट इज इन द माइंड, इट इज वेरी मच देयर. योर होल बॉडी इज देयर. या
Yeah. I think we'll finish with this, Sid, because the next session is starting. So how many of you would like to have a full day session with Sid Bhalla if we organize something for a day? Based on the request, we will request Sid Bhalla to come down one day and we'll organize.
We should have something like a voting done.
Okay, you give the feedback. Based on that, we will take a call and we'll organize.
Mrs. Uma, I think if you ask that Sid will come and look at the charts for one day, then perhaps the footfall will be more. Otherwise, it will be all theory.
Yeah, that's okay. Either way.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Sid Bhalla. This is the second session for the day.
Thank you so much.
Because of demand, we just asked him to request.